Hi, good afternoon, or evening, or morning, or night, or whatever it is for you. I wanted to make this video because I thought that there are these concepts that I've learned about in my reading of like statistics and rational thinking, economics, behavioral economics, super forecasting, social psychology, and just generally like learning about how to think well. And I think most people don't know these like three concepts, and I think they're like pretty important. And I just wish people would well, read a lot of the books that I read, but also just know these concepts and how to apply them. I think it's very important, and it's something that's lacking. Um, so I should say that actually I just got off work. My work schedule has been like all over the place. Like I work late into the evening last night, and then work very, very early, 4 a.m. this morning. And essentially, I just didn't sleep, and so I haven't slept. So, if that's an excuse for any less than perfect explanation, so be it. But so the three concepts I wanted to go over, and I hope someone could learn from these concepts and learn how to apply them and think well using them. So they're how to use Bayesian logic, and I'm not an expert on Bayesian logic, but I understand it in like the basic way that I think if you understand at least that much, then you just have so much better ability to make good estimates, make good judgments in life. And so that's Bayesian logic. The second concept is base rate neglect, which is a related concept. And then the third concept is statistical discrimination. And I had this idea in my mind that I would like do a bunch of math and show that statistical discrimination is like very important and efficient and rational, but we'll see. So I guess I'll start with base rate neglect, actually, because that's something that people seem to really not internalize, or maybe they've never heard of it. I mean, I guess the vast majority, it's just the truth that the vast majority of people do not read the types of books that I read, and so I guess maybe you would just not ever stumble upon base rate neglect. But yeah, so basically, when you estimate like the probability of anything, the average person is vastly overconfident in many things, and that's just the truth of the matter. So base rate neglect, I think it's from maybe behavioral economists or social psychologists. Otherwise, anyways, it's from people who study like how people make bad decisions, how people fail to make good decisions. That's base rate neglect. The idea is if you were to think about the probability that I mean the obvious one that always comes to my mind is what's the likelihood that, say you're getting married soon, or you're thinking about getting married, maybe you are married, what's the probability that your marriage will end in divorce? So most people, the vast majority of people usually are very overconfident. They're very inaccurate statistically about just reality. And so they think to themselves, I'm very special, I'm madly in love, and, I'm nothing like everyone else. People think they're very special. And so they'll say, like, the probability that my marriage will end in divorce is like, I don't know, 1%, 2%. But in fact, on average, you'd be best to just go with the average. That's called base rate neglect, is that you're ignoring the fact that without any good information, without any specific information, that's Bayesian. That's a Bayesian update. Without a Bayesian update, the best you can do really is base rate which is the statistical average. So when people say, what's the probability that my marriage will end in divorce? The best thing you can do, without any extra information, without a Bayesian update, is the actual statistical average of like 40%. In America, it's like 40%. And people really fail at these types of estimates when it comes to all kinds of life decisions. So I'm sure I'm just as guilty as anyone, but maybe it's easier to see in other people. But like, I'll see people who want to play professional, like basketball or professional soccer, and they unrealistically think that they have a pretty good chance of like being a professional soccer or football or basketball player. And base rate is the average. So out of how many thousands of people who play basketball, how many actually become like successful professional basketball players? Maybe 1 in a million, I would say. I don't really know the numbers, but it's something like 1 in a million, 1 in 200,000, something like that. And so people think I'm very special. I have a very high probability that I'll be successful. But the fact is that without any good information, the best you can do is just a base rate. It's just the average. I have a 1 in 200,000 chance of being a professional sports player or musician. And so base rate neglect is this concept of like people ignore the fact that they're average, on average. People think they're special. People think they're better than everyone else. People think that somehow the statistical averages are not applicable to them. But in fact, on average, people are average. Us, you, me, on average, we're average. That's what an average is. It's the fact that if you don't know anything else, this is like the base estimate of what you should be starting with. So that's base rate. So for instance, I'll get into Bayesian updating by saying that when you walk down a street, the fact of the matter is, like, men and women are different. We have different propensities for crime, for being violent. Men are maybe 10 times more likely to commit a crime or to be violent than women on average. And so, like, even if the numbers are very low, let's say that 1 in 1,000 women will commit a crime or be violent. Like, you're just walking down the street, you see a woman, something like 1 in 1,000 chance that she will just like commit a crime against you or be violent. Let's just say, as an example. But the fact is, like, men are more prone to violence and crime. So the fact is that the number for men is not 1 in 1,000. It might be like 10 in 1,000, 1 in 100. And so Bayesian update, there's a mathematical formula for it. You don't really need to know it, although it could be useful. But the really like intuitive idea is you start with the base rate. So the average person will only commit a crime, I don't know, 5 in 1,000 chance. But if it's a woman, it's actually like 1 in 1,000. And if it's a man, it's more like 10 in 1,000. As an example, these are not real numbers, but these are just like as an example. So Bayesian update just means like maybe start with the base rate, but then use the information you have to like come up with a new estimate. And so, for instance, people seem to think that, well, let me put it this way. I do not necessarily think people who well, the truth is, like, there are cultural differences between people, maybe subcultural differences, and like some, like, for instance, if you see a man wearing a suit and like a Rolex watch and like he's well shaved, like the amount of people who are dressed and like take care of their personal hygiene or appearance like that, who will commit a crime and be violent, is very low. Like if the base rate for men is 10 in 1,000, like a man wearing a suit and a Rolex watch and like well shaven is almost certainly less than 10 in 1,000. It's maybe 1 in 10,000. It's 0.1 in 1,000. But a man wearing like a hoodie, like a scruffy hoodie, maybe scruffy beard, maybe tattoos or piercings, like it's just the case that like those types of people, for whatever cultural reason, are more likely to be violent or commit a crime. So your Bayesian update is like if you see a man walking down the street and he has a tuxedo and a Rolex watch and he's well shaven, then like there's like a point one 0.1 in 1,000 chance that he'll like commit a crime and be violent against you. But if he's like wearing a scruffy hoodie and like has like a scruffy beard and like tattoos or something, like maybe it's like 20 in 1,000. It's still not certainty, and this gets into statistical discrimination. It's not certainty that this person will commit a crime against you, but it's almost certainly more likely than that the person with a tuxedo or a suit and like a well groomed like hygiene appearance will do so. So like there are like millions of examples of a Bayesian update. For instance, in my personal life, I have a propensity to think that most people would cheat in a relationship if they got the chance, if it was like a good enough deal, like if the person they were cheating with was like sufficiently attractive. But certainly some people are more likely to cheat than others, and some people are less likely to cheat than others. And it just so happens to be if you dress and like as a woman, from a man's perspective, if a woman dresses in like kind of provocative clothing, like leggings, tight clothing, or revealing clothing, chances are she gets more attention from men. Maybe she wants more attention from men. Either way, the point is she's almost certainly more likely to end up getting in the type of situations that leads her to cheat than someone who dresses more like modestly or casually or whatever it would be. So as a Bayesian update, like you can tell based on the way someone dresses that they're more or less likely to be the type of person who might cheat. And like this gets into maybe like, so there are obvious sex differences, but then there are like racial differences, almost certainly not for biological reasons. It's not the case that some races are more violent than others. I don't think so. But it might be the case that people from a certain background maybe see the world slightly differently, maybe come from more poverty, and for whatever reason are more likely to commit a crime and be violent than others. And so as a rational person who wants to estimate probabilities and the likelihood of events occurring, it would be wise to do a Bayesian update. Some people are more likely to commit a crime than others, and you should avoid them more often than others. Some women are more likely to cheat. Some men are more likely to cheat. And that's you should use like the statistic. You should not ignore that fact. That's the Bayesian update implies that you are starting with a probability and you're updating it. You're saying that only 10 in 1,000 men will try to be violent against me, but if he has tattoos and like a scruffy look, then it might be higher than 10 in 1,000. Maybe it's 20 in 1,000. Either way, it doesn't mean certainty. but it's certainly higher than someone who's not. And I want to come up with other examples that make it more obvious, but people are very bad at doing this Bayesian updating and statistically discriminating. Statistical discrimination means just using the information you have to categorize people and to realize that they have different likelihoods of something happening. So it's well known that car insurance companies will charge men a higher premium than women, at least up until like their mid-30s or something. And like, it's obvious the reason why. It's because men are more dangerous. Men make more bad decisions. Men are more likely to try to show off. Men are more likely to just not interpret their decisions very well up until, like, I don't know, mid-20s, late 20s, 30 or something. And statistical discrimination means you just treat people slightly differently based on like statistical information that tells you that they in fact have different probabilities of something happening. So for instance, it might be the case that the average person does not read books, but you could know something about someone by knowing how they dress, maybe what level of education they have, maybe what type of music they listen to. And this type of information tells you that you should try to like update the probability that this person is someone who reads books. So where most people fail to take any of these concepts into account is a lot of their life decisions. So plenty of people think that they have like an above average chance of being very special at things. People think that they have a very above average chance of like their relationships working out.